Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie O'Connell and I am the head undergraduate TA for B-Law. So basically the purpose of this video is to go over the term paper, how to be successful in B-Law, and some extra credit options that you have throughout the semester. So first thing I'm going to talk about is the term paper because it's really important. If you choose to do the term paper and you score well, you can choose to replace your lowest test grade with your term paper. It's optional and up to you. So I would highly recommend doing the term paper just in case you don't do well on an exam. It is a good safety net, and also I know my semester I had to miss my final exam due to a family emergency, and I could use my term paper score to replace that. So it's a really awesome thing that Professor Emerson does, so I highly recommend taking advantage. So one of the things about the term paper that a lot of people have questions on is choosing a topic. And you do have to choose a topic now or by Tuesday, May 28th. That's when the outlines are due. Because if you don't turn in an outline on the 28th, you cannot write a term paper. So definitely make sure to get that in. But when you're choosing a topic, my biggest piece of advice would be to find something that's really interesting to you. So in the past, people have done cases on like Apple versus Samsung and really cool intellectual property cases, and one person even did one on Mike Tyson's tattoo, something about like the artist of the tattoo suing someone for using Mike Tyson's tattoo without permission. So that's a really interesting case. Also like sports betting, athlete contracts, celebrity law, stuff like that, that has to do with business law. So definitely choose something that you're interested in because it is by no means a really long paper, but it is also not a short paper, so you do have to do a lot of research on it, and why do research on something that you're completely not interested in? So just choose something that you find interesting. Some other topics that have provided some interesting cases are real estate law, contract law, negligence law, tort law, trust law, and intellectual property law. So if you just search a topic on like Google, or Google Scholar is always really good to use, like tort law cases, stuff will come up. When you are choosing your topic, make sure that you choose within the guidelines in the syllabus. I'm not going to go over all of them in this video, but definitely go check out the syllabus because it gives detailed instructions. One thing I will highlight is that you should not do Supreme Court cases like Brown versus Board or Roe v. Wade, and that's because those are, although they're really important cases and really interesting to write about, they're landmark Supreme Court cases that have nothing to do with business law, and no matter how you turn them, they're too old for this assignment. There is a time limit for this assignment on how old a case can be. So check out the syllabus for that if you didn't already. If you don't do a case that is approved, you will have to redo the outline. So please choose a good case right off the bat, so that we don't have to let you know that you have to redo it, because that's not fun for anyone. If you do decide after you submit your outline on the 28th that you hate your topic or can't find enough information on your case or anything like that, you can email Professor Emerson and change your topic with a new outline. You do have to provide a new outline, and you have to do it 6 days before the term paper itself is due. And then one more thing, people tend to have questions about this. You don't have to do it on a specific court case. I will say from my experience and from grading experience, the papers on court cases are usually easier to write, especially cases that are not ongoing. You can choose a court case that is ongoing still. You can choose just a topic in business law and talk about multiple court cases, or like a piece of legislation. That is totally allowed. I would just say it is a little bit less complex to just do one court case, and you can really give that analysis that we're looking for on one court case. So one of the really important parts of the term paper is your sources and formatting. So you need at least 9 sources as stated in the syllabus. Some source suggestions could be like oyez.org, oyez.org. And basically that's summaries of court cases, tells you what the court case was about, and tells you who voted what. So that's a good resource. If you're doing a Supreme Court case that's recent, you can use scotusblog.com. Also, all of the UF computers at the libraries have the library database on them, and you can use anything on the library database. LexisNexis is a really good resource, unless you're a law student, which if you're taking this course, you aren't. You don't have LexisNexis access just on your regular computer, but you can get LexisNexis access through the library computers, and I'm pretty sure that you can use it if you're on UF Wi-Fi, or you can use partial parts of that database. Cornell Law is also a good source. Also, feel free to get creative with your sources. People have used Netflix documentaries in the past, regular documentaries, very reputable news sources, YouTube videos, stuff like that. So just make sure your sources are really reputable and great sources, and you need at least 9. We like to see more than 9. When you are citing your sources, this is really important. Use Purdue OWL or another good resource for citing to make sure you're doing it correctly. I use Citation Machine. I feel silly saying that as a college student because it's something I used in high school, but you basically just plug in the information of the book or the article or website that you're using or documentary, anything like that, and it creates the citation for you, and you just fill in any missing information. I like to use that because I know that I am using the correct formatting. We don't care what kind of citing you use, whether you use APA, MLA, Chicago, any of those. Just be consistent. So don't cite one thing in MLA and then the next in APA and then the next in MLA. Don't do that. Keep your whole paper consistent. And that goes with formatting as well. So if you do APA citing, make sure your paper is formatted in APA formatting, because APA and MLA are different, same with Chicago. But with the formatting, I highly recommend using footnotes for your citations. There's examples of that in the syllabus, so you can look at those, also on Purdue OWL. And then I also recommend separating all of your paper sections into, with subheadings. Think about the people grading your paper or anyone reading your paper. If you use that basic 5-paragraph mentality and format, it's a lot of words at once for readers to read. So definitely separate those with subheadings. It makes for a clearer paper and a cleaner paper. When you are doing your paper, like I said with the subheadings, make sure that you have an introduction and a conclusion, and also make sure the bulk of your paper is an analysis of the case. We can easily Google the case and what it's about, so also make sure the information's accurate. But with that being said, we don't need a very in-depth summary of the case. Obviously summarize the case so that a reader can get the idea of what it's about, and highlight any important terminologies used in the case and any important rulings, but definitely provide a majority of the paper as an analysis of the case. And a lot of cases that maybe haven't been completed yet, you can provide what you think will happen in the future, what you think should happen. If you disagree with the outcome of a case, say that. We want your opinion in the paper. But make sure you say it in a scholarly way. So we do grade on grammar, the maturity of your writing, things like that. So have a friend read it, use spell check, I use Grammarly online. It's really easy. You don't have to pay for it, and you just copy and paste your entire document into the Grammarly software, and it tells you anything that can be changed, and it also helps you with your grammar, obviously. It's called Grammarly. With the term papers, that's about it that I have to say. I really, once again, want to highlight the importance of doing the term paper. It can make or break your grade. It can make a huge difference. Like I said, I had a family emergency when I took the course and wasn't able to complete the last exam, let alone study for the exam. So I definitely would have failed that last exam if I hadn't been able to replace the grade with the term paper. Check out the syllabus for more details on like the policy with swapping your term paper grade for your lowest exam score and how the breakdown affects your grade. Next, I'm going to talk about extra credit. So you have a couple options for extra credit in the course. One of them is not emailing Professor Emerson or the TAs and asking them to bump your grade, as tempting as that might be if you're at the end of the semester and need that. But one of the ways is writing a review of a business law article. And who better to review than Professor Emerson's business law articles? So there's a link in the syllabus to all of Professor Emerson's business law articles. There's some really good ones on franchising, which you learn about in the course. And they're really interesting. So what you have to do is do a review of it, give your opinion, maybe just talk about the case and what you think about it, or the article. But one thing you don't need to do is summarize the article, because obviously Professor Emerson wrote it, so he knows what's in it and he's the one grading it. So you really don't need to summarize it for him because he wrote it. Another option is doing a trial report. So basically what you have to do is you can either watch a case, like a court case, online. You can watch it live online. There's websites of previously recorded cases, or you can go to your local courthouse and watch a trial. This trial does not have to have anything to do with business law. It can be criminal. You just have to write a report based on the instructions in the syllabus of that trial. The third thing that you can do is class attendance. So class attendance, you have to go to a majority of classes. That doesn't mean like, I know technically it's 51%, but we mean more like 80 to 100% of the classes. So that is available, that's an available option for people in Gainesville. So I would recommend going to the lectures. I went to the lectures and they were really interesting. If you haven't watched them yet, they're really captivating, and Professor Emerson makes them fun while also educational. He uses a lot of props, and he can be really silly, but in the best way. So I definitely recommend going to those. You will learn a lot, and you'll also be more prepared for the exam because there are exam questions that are about the lectures, and you can get extra credit for it. So now kind of going into successful study habits and how to be successful in the course. My first tip of advice, like I said earlier, do the term paper. That means doing the outline that's due on the 28th. My second tip of advice is actually read the LSB and watch the lectures, and don't wait until a week before the exam to start studying. I know, like, I'm a major procrastinator. I'm sure a lot of you are as well, but definitely this is not the class that you can procrastinate in. It is just too much material. I mean, you've seen the LSB, hopefully, and it is a big, large book full of a lot of really important information. The lectures, there's also a bunch of them, and they're not super short, so I highly recommend starting now if you haven't, studying for that first exam. So when I say read the LSB, I mean read the LSB, but don't focus on memorizing every part of the LSB. It's an open book test for a reason, and you can use that textbook on the test, so don't memorize every word in the book. Definitely only memorize the main concepts, or rather than memorize, understand the main concepts in the book so that you can apply them, because the test questions are not vocabulary based, I'd say. Like, it's not going to be what is contract law, what is the difference between like civil and criminal law, stuff like that. The questions are going to be scenario based, so it would more so say like Jill and Susie make a contract via phone call, and then it'll give an entire scenario, and then the answer choice questions will say something like, Susie is in the wrong because this, or Susie and Jill did this, so Sally is in the wrong, if that makes sense. So you do need to understand those concepts rather than just memorize them. There's also some really great resources for you in the files section of Canvas. One of these is the practice problems. So Professor Emerson has taken past test questions and compiled them into one very large document. I want to say there's like around 400 questions. It's a lot. You definitely do not have to do all of them, but they do start to get a little bit repetitive by topic. None of the questions are the same, but the topics are the same. So if you feel like you really have a topic down, I would skip any questions that you don't think are necessary to keep repeating. And at the beginning of the document, Professor Emerson breaks them down by topic, which is really helpful. If you find yourself cramming for the exam, which fingers crossed you do not, but if you are like 2 days before the exam and you're just getting to the practice problems, have no fear. Like I said, you don't need to do all of them. Just do the ones that are really important to your personal studying. So if you feel like you have one topic that you need to work on, definitely do those questions in the practice problems first. Another really good piece of advice is stay organized throughout the entire course. So organize your notes so that you can easily find information when you take your exam. It is, like I said, open book, and you can have anything made out of paper there. So you can have the LSB, the Barron's book, any notes that you've taken, maybe notes that you've purchased, any indexes for the book. But make sure everything you have is really organized and that you know where the main concepts are in your notes and in the book, in case you do have to flip back to them to refresh yourself during the exam. Like I said, don't wait until the day of the exam to read your textbook. You will not have time to just start reading during the exam, if that makes sense. So if you're flipping from index to a topic in the textbook, you're not going to have time to finish the exam. There's usually around like 44 to I think like 50 max questions on the exam. So over 2 hours, you won't have time to do all of them if you're having to look up every single answer in the book. That's why it's really important to know those main concepts. So like I just said, you have 2 hours to take the exam, and that is a strict 2 hours. Right at the 2 hour mark, we cut you off. You've got to have all those answers bubbled in on your Scantron by the end of the 2 hours. So within those 2 hours, I would take every second that you have. By the end of the exam, we usually have, I'd say like 80 to 90% of the class still taking the exam or finishing up around the 2 hour mark. So it's definitely a test that you can finish in 2 hours if you know your stuff, but I would take the full 2 hours, even if you finish at an hour and a half, and go back through. I mean, you have your book, so why not go back through and check your answers through? Can't hurt, can only help you. One last piece of advice for the exams is printing out the LSB index. So that index that you have at the back of your LSB, it's actually in the files folder as well on Canvas, and you can print it out, and that makes it a lot easier to use while you're taking the test, because you don't have to flip from the back of the book to the front of the book, back of the book to the front of the book. You can just have that index next to you. You do have room on your exam table, and then your book. So the exams, a lot of people ask, like, are the exams impossible? No, they're not impossible. You can definitely score well if you know those main concepts, and if you put in the work. Just like any other class at UF, it is like a higher level course, and you do need to put in the time and effort to do well in the course. But I have full faith that all of you can do really well in the course. And I look forward to meeting all of you at exams, office hours, things like that. One more note on office hours. I posted on the Canvas page the other day that we have them from 12 to 1, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you are an out-of-town Gator, or you are not here for the summer, or you can't make it to those times on Monday through Thursday, you can contact the undergraduate TAs. There's around 40 of us this semester, and schedule a time to meet with someone in person or online. We can set that up for you, or just ask your questions via email, whatever you're comfortable with. Please, throughout the semester, do not contact TAs using their personal email or their Canvas Messenger. All of us are students as well, and we appreciate and respect your privacy, so we ask the same in return. But best of luck this semester, and please, if you have any questions, you can leave them on a discussion board or send them to the TA email. I hope I answered any questions that you might have had. Thank you.